Hi, my name is Kate, and I chose to address this letter to my grandfather, even though he passed away when I was 14. Salem, Oregon, April 18th, 2020. Dear Granddad. As this crisis has unfolded, I have found myself thinking of you quite often. Plenty of people have already likened the coronavirus pandemic to the war effort during the Second World War, and the economic nosedive we are currently experiencing has put many in mind of the Great Depression, events that you lived through and that defined you for the rest of your life. Even though I was too young to understand why you did it, I would watch with interest as you scraped every morsel of food off your plate at the end of each meal, despite the screeching sounds the fork made against the porcelain. Then, and only then, after you had scraped up and swallowed every visible speck of food, would you lift the plate to your lips and lick it, just in case some imperceptible residue of nutrients persisted. Only later did I come to understand that this was a sign of the hardship of your upbringing, that it spoke of scarcity, poverty, and hunger the like of which I have never experienced and, God willing, never will. I paid attention to your other Depression-era oddities too. While I agree with Dad that some of them were a little extreme, like melting down the unusable slivers of old soap bars, combining them with water, and using the mixture to fill the soap dispensers, I was oddly fascinated by your frugality, and for the most part, strove to emulate it. My roommate makes fun of me for hoarding glass jars and old yogurt containers, but you never know when they're going to come in handy. I only wish I remembered more of what you taught me about gardening and canning, and I really wish someone in the family had thought to ask you for your applesauce recipe before you passed. Those skills would have come in handy now, with the recession we are about to enter. I would dearly love to be able to make currant jam and canned pears in a time like this. When I was old enough to understand what you had been through and how it had marked you, I began, in a curious way, to envy you. All my life I have felt curiously detached from history. I think this is true of most of the children of the digital age. We live with an odd sense of atemporality, with no defining event or cause to orient us in time, submerged instead in a morass of cynical postmodernism, apathetic malaise, and lethargic despondence at the state of the world. I envied you in that you had an occasion to rise to, that history had presented you with a galvanizing crisis and a cause bigger than yourself to be a part of. Now it seems my generation's moment has come, and it doesn't feel at all like I thought it would. I don't feel the call of duty or the inspiration that I thought would accompany a moment of global crisis, but in thinking about it more carefully, I realize it was probably like this for you too. There was nothing grandiose or glamorous about living through the Great Depression or World War II. For most people, the days that will live on in infamy are just days. On the ground and in the moment, though we may be forced to change our habits or adjust to what the circumstances demand, what is asked of us quickly becomes normal and we just go on living. Retrospectively, I feel a little silly for thinking that a crisis like this would be somehow ennobling. But in some ways, I think that it's more indicative of the indomitable human spirit that we have managed to just go on living in spite of everything. While I failed to absorb your faith, and I know that disappointed you, I do share your faith in people. I certainly have my generation's cynical streak, but I maintain the conviction that people are basically good, and that when called upon to display it, we are capable of limitless generosity, kindness, and love. Of course, my cynical side would impose some caveats. I think generosity and wealth have an inverse relationship. It would seem paradoxical, and yet experience suggests that those with the most tend to be the most tight-fisted, while those with very little to give what they can freely. So while the responses of our elites have done nothing but disappoint me, I have been so heartened by the efforts of ordinary people to help their friends and neighbors. But if I have faith in anything, I have faith in human adaptability. I firmly believe that we have the capacity to arise to whatever occasion we are asked to, that we will be exactly as strong as we need to be to survive whatever fate hurls our way, and that even if we can't yet imagine how we'll manage, we will, because it's simply what we do. We adapt, we adjust, and we endure. I know you would have attributed it to God, but regardless of its origin, that inner strength resides in all of us. It won't be easy. There will be no shortage of tears, disappointments, and despair along the way, but I stand firm in the conviction that we will get through this. It will leave its mark, to be sure. As you licked plates and canned fruit, no doubt we will be tightly rationing toilet paper and obsessively washing our hands for many years to come. I even dare to hope that some good things may come of this. As you learned to appreciate what you had, never let anything go to waste, and never take anything for granted, I hope that we learn to value our friends and family, recognize our mutual responsibility to one another, and work to build a society that looks after its most vulnerable. Perhaps, though it doesn't feel ennobling or inspiring in the moment, this bizarre historical moment will ennoble and inspire us going forward. So, as I finish my senior year of college over Zoom, self-isolating far from home and family, I know one way or another that it will be all right. I will be as strong as I need to be to get through this, and though I miss my parents and I'm bummed that I won't have a commencement ceremony, I shall endure. Thank you for endowing me with the outlook and the skills to survive this. As your generation survived the Depression and the war, mine will survive the pandemic. And perhaps, I dare to hope, emerge stronger. I love you and I miss you every day. Kate.